On this episode of Ask Dan, I'll talk about what apps and gadgets I use for exercise and fitness, and whether or not Microsoft should make its own Apple iMessage competitor. All that and much more on this week's episode of Ask Dan. Stay tuned. Is turning the Store app restriction on for Windows 10 the same as just using Windows 10s? First of all, let's define what we're talking about. So this app restriction is found under Apps and Features under Settings and all versions of Windows 10. What it allows you to do is select a little checkbox and you can basically turn off the ability to install apps from any place except the Store. And that's a pretty good restriction. So yeah, in theory, you can kind of create your own version of Windows 10s by just enabling that. Of course, you can also just not install executable apps and get the same result. But technically speaking, while that is the main feature of Windows 10s, that's not all the restrictions that Windows 10s has. So there are a few other things. For instance, you can't run a lot of the executable apps that are built into Windows. So Bash, a command line, regedit, yes, the registry editor is not available in Windows 10s. You also can't join a domain. There are other restrictions too, including not being able to install drivers or even change the default browser or search engine. Now, the default browser kind of makes sense. After all, you can't install Chrome, but the search engine is a unique restriction as well. So if you throw all that together on your Windows 10 Pro machine, now you have Windows 10s. So at the end of the day, using that Windows settings feature is close to Windows 10s, but it's not quite the whole story. I hear you enjoy fitness. Can you please recommend a good app for tracking progress like weight? So guilty as charged, I'm a big fan of exercising. In fact, I hit the gym between 5 and 6 days a week and been doing that for about the last decade or so. I'm always improving, so there's a lot of discussion here. Let's talk about smart stuff and smart devices you can use. I'm a huge fan of Fitbit, and the reason is they focus primarily on fitness, as their name implies. Now, the Ionic is what I use, and it's not exactly a smartwatch, though it has some smartwatch features. But it's really good for fitness, mostly because it's what most people will be using, and it has a great social network. So you can follow your friends on it, you can tag them, you can do all sorts of stuff. And that's what a lot of people like about Fitbit, is it has a really good network built into it. It also does great stuff for sleep and heart rate stuff that is really unmatched. Now, I should point out, everybody's goals are different and everybody's strategies are different. If you're very much into running, well, I would have to say Garmin is the best name in the business. Their apps and their devices are way more sophisticated and geared towards that. I don't really do a lot of running besides some light cardio, so that device, it's really nice, just not for me. Now, when it comes to something like the Apple Watch, I've had the Series 2. I absolutely hated it for fitness. That's not to say it's a bad device. It's a very good smartwatch that can do some fitness stuff, but when it came to sleep analysis and heart rate stuff, I just found it very much lacking. So pick your goals and what you want to do. If you want the best all-around fitness stuff with the social network, go for Fitbit. You can check out their new Ionic or the brand new Versa, which is coming to market, and I think it's actually a nicer looking device. When it comes to tracking meals and your progress, I have to give a shout out to MyFitnessPal, one of the best in the business. It's a really powerful app for logging in your meals and your calories. You can even do macro counts, which is what I do. And their catalog for food is just off the wall. Everything you want is scanned already into that system. It's really kind of cool. Plus, you can plug it right into Fitbit, so your Fitbit steps will count against your calorie goals. It all works together. Really beautiful system. Highly recommend it. Whether or not you need the Pro version, well, maybe not. It's nice to have though. Finally, check out getting a smart scale. I, once again, use a Fitbit Aria, and there's also the Aria 2 that's now out. There's also the Withings, which was taken over by Nokia Health, but I'm a little hesitant to recommend as Nokia Health has been a little bit on the rocks lately. Still, it's really nice hardware. Smart scales are really nice. They measure your weight. They sync automatically to your account, so you don't need to type in anything. Keeps you a running record of your weights. Plus, it measures your body fat composition, which is not always accurate, but it's consistent. So if you use it frequently, you at least have a guideline for how much fat you're losing, which is not necessarily correlated with weight, and it's an important thing to learn about. Also, just go on Reddit. There's a lot of good groups there. Why are you not recommending or pushing Samsung phones despite Microsoft selling them? So recently I did a video talking about my 3 favorite Android phones I recommend for Windows Phone users who are looking to switch. That'll probably change in a couple months and I'll revisit that video. But in there I talked about Samsung phones and why I don't really recommend them, or at least not for me. And I love their hardware. It's really the best in the business, but I don't like their software at all. It's a personal choice. I know you can disable a lot of it. I know you can hack everything. I don't have the time for this, folks. I just want to use a phone without going on the internet, looking on XDA, how to hack this thing. That said, they're good phones. I can still recommend them. Reason why we don't push a lot of that on Windows Central, first of all, Samsung doesn't need our help. I don't know if you checked. They're doing pretty well with our assistance on Galaxy S phones. We have Android Central for that, so they can handle it. And just because Microsoft sells it doesn't mean I agree with it. I've already given my recommendations on Android phones, and I'm sticking with that. How is Microsoft using the space for the fan on the Core i5 non-LTE version of the Surface Pro? All right, so this question's a little confusing. If you don't know, on the Core i5 version of the Surface Pro, there's no fan involved there. So we have already covered that before in previous videos. You can go check those out. So there's a gap there in the board. And what Microsoft did was drop in their LTE modem in that space for the new Surface Pro with LTE, which only comes in the Core i5 model. And that's the reason why the Core i7 model doesn't have LTEs, because there's no space to put that modem. So the question is, how is Microsoft using that space on the non-LTE version of the Surface Pro? Well, if you cracked it open, it would just be a space as far as I know. There's just air in there. And the reason they did that was to cut down on cost and redesign. They didn't really have to redesign or make the Surface Pro with LTE any thicker, larger, heavier, or any of that stuff, because the space was there. So it was a nice method for cutting down on cost as well as engineering. But as far as I know, on the Surface Pro Core i5 model, there's just a gap there, nothing there. I don't know, maybe you can put your change in there if you could find space. Should Microsoft launch an iMessage competitor? Okay, I really like this question because it's really pertinent. Microsoft is doing a lot of work with Android and iOS, and there's a lot of possibility there for getting those devices to work better with Windows 10. Microsoft has actually talked about this strategy a lot as their main goal, to make all your devices work together. And they do have some of this already in Windows 10 with the ability to share links and other things with your phone. So it sort of makes sense that they would pursue this. Now I say makes sense, but we are dealing with Microsoft here. So as much as I would love to see them do this, I don't think they are. I think they could do some more work here with getting your phone to work better. And if you watch my Dell XPS 13 review for the brand new 9370 model, you'll see what Dell has done, which is basically made it so your phone works completely with your PC. You can even take calls on the PC, which is amazing. It absolutely works beautifully. And I'd love to see that built into Windows 10. As to Microsoft building this out as another messaging solution, though, I don't see it happening. And I think part of that is we just have messenger fatigue. There are a lot of options on the market. We personally use GroupMe here at Windows Central, but everybody else loves WhatsApp. And of course, overseas, they have a bunch of other options as well. There's a lot of competition out there. But I do agree, Microsoft's actually in a unique position here where they could roll out their own messaging app on iOS, on Android, make it work on Windows 10 PCs, and make it work as a universal system. You think Skype would be able to do that, but Skype feels like it's more just a voice thing as opposed to messaging, and I think that's a problem. I'd love to see Microsoft do the right thing here and pursue that strategy, but I don't see any evidence that they are. So that does it for this week's episode. Remember, if you have a question, use hashtag AskDanWindows on Twitter, or go to our forums at windowscentral.com. You can also drop me an email at askdan@windowscentral.com. If you like this video, give us a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe. Thanks for watching. Take care, everybody.